Most Americans believe car payments are just part of life, a responsible way to own reliable transportation, something everyone does. But here's the uncomfortable truth. That single monthly payment quietly costs more than most people ever invest for retirement. The average new car payment in the United States is now over $700 a month. That's more than $8,400 a year for 6 years. And the real cost isn't the payment itself, it's what that payment prevents you from building while you're making it. This isn't about judgment, it's about a system designed to make one question feel responsible while hiding the question that actually matters. In this video, I'll show you how this system actually works, why even high-income earners fall into it, and how to evaluate a car decision clearly before you commit to years of payments that quietly drain your financial future. Car payments weren't always the default. In 1960, roughly 55% of cars were purchased with cash. By 2020, that number dropped below 10%. Financing became the norm, not because Americans got worse with money, but because the system made monthly payments feel manageable while obscuring the total cost. Here's how it happened. Car prices increased faster than wages. In 1980, the average new car cost about $7,200. Adjusted for inflation, that's roughly $26,000 in today's dollars. The current average is over $48,000. Wages didn't double in that same period, so manufacturers and lenders extended loan terms, first to 4 years, then 5, then 6. Now 7-year car loans are common, and some lenders even offer 8-year terms. The longer the term, the lower the monthly payment, and that monthly number is what the entire transaction revolves around. Walk into a dealership and the first question isn't how much car can you afford, it's what monthly payment works for your budget. This question sounds reasonable, responsible even, but it's engineered to shift your focus away from the total price, the interest rate, and the long-term cost. The monthly payment becomes the anchor, and once you're anchored to that number, every other part of the deal is negotiated around it. You're not deciding whether to spend $45,000. You're deciding whether you can handle $650 a month. Those feel like very different decisions, and that difference is the foundation of the system. The dealership can make any price work if they can extend the term long enough. Want a $50,000 truck but can only afford $500 a month? No problem. They'll stretch it to 84 months. You'll be making payments for 7 years, but the monthly number fits your budget. The fact that you'll pay $42,000 in payments alone, plus interest, on a vehicle that will be worth $20,000 when you're done, that part doesn't come up. And here's the crucial part. This isn't predatory lending in the traditional sense. Nobody's lying to you. The terms are disclosed, the interest rate is stated, you sign documents that show exactly what you're agreeing to. But the structure of the transaction makes it almost impossible to evaluate the decision clearly. Everything is designed to make the monthly payment feel acceptable while the total cost remains abstract. You're not buying transportation, you're not buying a car, you're buying a payment.
Let's look at what actually happens when you finance a car, and let's use real numbers that reflect what millions of Americans are doing right now. Assume you buy a $40,000 vehicle. You put $3,000 down, you finance $37,000 at 7% interest over 6 years. Your monthly payment is $629. That sounds manageable. Plenty of people pay more than that in rent. Over 6 years, you'll pay $45,288 total. That's the $37,000 you borrowed plus $8,288 in interest. But that's not the full picture, not even close. The car starts depreciating the moment you drive it off the lot. In the first year alone, a new car typically loses 20 to 30% of its value. That $40,000 car is now worth $28,000 to $32,000. After 3 years, it's lost roughly half its value. By the time you finish paying off that 6-year loan, the car you paid $45,000 for is worth maybe $15,000 to $18,000 if you're lucky. Let's use $16,000 as the realistic value. You didn't just pay $8,288 in interest, you paid $45,288 for an asset that's now worth $16,000. That's a net loss of $29,288 over 6 years. That's $4,881 per year, or $407 per month on top of your actual payment. The real monthly cost wasn't $629, it was over $1,000 when you account for depreciation. When you look at the numbers this way, it becomes clear. You're not buying a car, you're buying a payment that replaces wealth. Now add opportunity cost. That $629 per month could have been invested. At a conservative 7% annual return, the same rate you're paying in interest, investing $629 monthly for 6 years would grow to roughly $54,000. You gave up $54,000 in potential wealth to own a depreciating asset worth $16,000. The real cost isn't $45,000, it's closer to $83,000 when you account for depreciation and opportunity cost. And here's the part that makes this cycle so hard to break. Most people don't pay off the car and keep it. They trade it in before the loan is finished. The average American keeps a car for about 6 years, but the average loan term is now over 6 years. That means many people trade in a car they still owe money on. When you trade in a car with negative equity, meaning you owe more than it's worth, that remaining balance doesn't disappear. It gets rolled into the next loan. Now you're financing a new car plus the leftover debt from the old one. The cycle compounds. Let's say you trade in that car after 4 years. You've paid $30,192 in payments, but you still owe about $13,000 on the loan. The car is worth maybe $20,000 at that point, so you have $7,000 in equity. That sounds like progress, but you've actually spent $30,192 to own $7,000 in value. And most people take that $7,000 and use it as a down payment on an even more expensive car, restarting the 6-year cycle at a higher payment. This is how car payments become permanent. This is how households making 6 figures still feel broke. The money isn't going to rent or food or emergencies. It's going to a cycle of payments on depreciating assets that never ends.
This isn't just happening to people who are financially reckless. Smart, educated, high-income earners fall into the same traps, sometimes even more easily because they can technically afford the payment. Here's where it happens. Small down payments. Putting down 5% or 10% feels manageable. It preserves cash. It lets you keep money in the bank for emergencies. But it also means you're immediately underwater on the loan. If you finance $38,000 on a $40,000 car, and that car loses $10,000 in value in year 1, you now owe $35,000 on a car worth $30,000. You can't sell it without writing a check. You can't trade it in without rolling negative equity into the next loan. You're locked in. The smaller the down payment, the longer you stay trapped. And dealers know this. They actively encourage small down payments because it keeps you in the system longer. You can't escape the loan early, so you're more likely to trade in and start over. Long financing terms. A 7-year loan makes the monthly payment lower. It makes a $50,000 truck feel affordable when a 5-year loan wouldn't. But it also means you're paying interest for 84 months, and you're driving a car that's out of warranty while you're still making payments on it. Most new car warranties last 3 to 5 years. After that, you're covering repairs out of pocket, and repairs on modern vehicles aren't cheap. A transmission replacement can cost $4,000 to $7,000. An engine issue can be $5,000 to $10,000. So now you're making a $650 monthly payment and covering a $3,000 repair in year 6.
You can't afford to fix it, and you can't afford to get rid of it. The longer the loan, the more likely you are to hit this situation. And when you do, the easiest option feels like trading it in for something newer, which means rolling the remaining balance into a new loan and starting over. The good deal illusion. People convince themselves they got a great deal because they negotiated the price down, got a rebate, or got a lower interest rate than expected. This creates a psychological win that overrides the actual financial reality. Getting $3,000 off a $50,000 car you can't afford doesn't make it affordable. It makes it $47,000 you can't afford. The discount is real, but it's a discount on a bad decision.
The same thing happens with interest rates. People celebrate getting approved at 5.9% instead of 7%, and relative to 7%, that is better. But it doesn't change the fact that you're borrowing money to buy something that's guaranteed to lose value. A lower interest rate on a bad purchase is still a bad purchase. This illusion is powerful because it lets people feel smart while making a decision that undermines their financial stability, and the system reinforces it. Dealerships celebrate with you when you get the deal done. They congratulate you on your new car. Everyone involved acts like you made a great decision, and in that moment, it feels like you did. Status pressure. This is the invisible one. Nobody admits it out loud, but the car you drive signals where you are in life. And in the United States, car culture is identity. Your profession, your neighborhood, your income level, all of it gets reflected in your driveway. Driving a 10-year-old paid-off sedan while your neighbors have new SUVs feels like falling behind, even when the math says you're ahead. Your coworkers drive new trucks, your friends lease luxury cars, your family members ask when you're going to get something nicer. The pressure isn't rational, but it's real, and it drives financial decisions more than people want to admit. High earners feel this more acutely. If you're a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, or a business owner, there's an unspoken expectation that your car matches your income. Showing up to client meetings in a 2012 Honda Civic feels like it undermines your credibility, even though it has nothing to do with your competence.
This is why people making $150,000 a year still have car payments. It's not that they can't afford to pay cash. It's that the social cost of driving something modest feels higher than the financial cost of financing something impressive. Emotional decisions disguised as logical ones. People don't say, "I want this car because it makes me feel successful." They say, "I need reliable transportation," or "safety is worth it," or "it holds its value better." These aren't lies, but they're justifications built after the emotional decision has already been made. Once you've test-driven the car and imagined yourself owning it, your brain starts working backward to justify the purchase. The dealership knows this. The entire sales process is designed to create emotional attachment before the negotiation even starts. You sit in the driver's seat. You feel the steering wheel. You smell the new car smell. You picture yourself driving it to work, taking road trips, pulling into your driveway. The emotional decision happens in those first 10 minutes. Everything after that is rationalization. You tell yourself it's practical. You focus on features that justify the cost. You emphasize safety ratings or reliability scores. But the decision was already made emotionally, and now your logical brain is just finding evidence to support it. This is normal human psychology, but it's also why car purchases are so financially destructive. You're making a major financial decision based on emotion, then using logic to justify it after the fact.
There's a reason financial advisors have rules about car buying. And while the specific rules vary, the underlying principle is always the same. Cars are the largest unnecessary expense most people normalize. Dave Ramsey's guideline is well known. If you can't pay cash, you can't afford it. And if you do finance, the total value of all your vehicles shouldn't exceed half your annual income. That second part is crucial. If you make $80,000 per year, you shouldn't have more than $40,000 tied up in cars. If you're married and your household income is $120,000, that's $60,000 max in vehicle value. Not $60,000 per person, $60,000 total. That's not deprivation advice, it's a forcing function. It makes you ask whether you can actually afford the car, not just the payment. Other advisors use different frameworks. Some say keep total transportation costs, payment, insurance, gas, maintenance, under 15% of gross income. If you make $6,000 per month, that's $900 max for everything car-related. Others say never finance a depreciating asset if you have other debt. If you have student loans, credit card balances, or a mortgage with less than 20% equity, financing a car is moving in the wrong direction. You're taking on debt to buy something that loses value, while you already have debt on things that either build value or were necessary expenses. The specific rule matters less than the underlying principle. A car is a tool that loses value every month you own it. Financing a car is borrowing money to buy something that's guaranteed to be worth less than what you paid. That doesn't mean financing is always wrong, but it does mean the default assumption should be skepticism, not acceptance. When financing does make sense, it's in very specific circumstances. The loan term is short, ideally 3 years, no more than 4. The interest rate is very low, often below 3%, and most importantly, you have the cash to pay it off, but choose to invest that cash instead at a higher return. That's a strategic use of debt. You're earning 8% on invested capital while paying 2% on the loan. That's a net positive arbitrage. But that's not how most people finance cars. Most people finance because they don't have the cash. They finance because the monthly payment is the only way they can afford the car at all. And that means they're paying interest to own something that's losing value while giving up the ability to build wealth. The gap between strategic debt and necessary debt is enormous, and the car financing industry blurs that gap intentionally.
Here's how to think about this clearly. These aren't rigid rules. They're filters that force clarity before you commit to years of payments. Step 1. Calculate the all-in cost. Don't just look at the monthly payment. Add up the full amount you'll pay over the life of the loan. Include interest. Include higher insurance costs, which are significantly more expensive on financed vehicles because lenders require full coverage. Include maintenance costs, especially if the loan extends past the warranty period. Then, compare that total to what the car will realistically be worth when the loan is paid off. Not what the salesperson says, not what you hope. Look up actual depreciation curves for that make and model. If the gap is massive, if you're paying $45,000 for something that will be worth $15,000, you're not buying transportation, you're renting money to lose money. Step 2. Apply the income test. Take your annual household income, divide it by 2. That's the maximum total value of vehicles you should own, financed or not. If you make $80,000 per year, you shouldn't have more than $40,000 tied up in cars. If you have 2 cars, that's $20,000 each on average. If you're single and have 1 car, it's $40,000 max. This rule keeps transportation proportional to income. It prevents lifestyle inflation from eating wealth-building capacity, and it creates a forcing mechanism that makes you choose between a nicer car and financial flexibility. Most people violate this rule dramatically. Someone making $70,000 a year drives a $45,000 SUV. A household earning $100,000 has 2 cars worth $70,000 combined. The payments feel manageable in isolation, but they consume a disproportionate share of income that could be building wealth. Step 3. Decide if you're okay with the opportunity cost.
Look at what you'd have if you invested the monthly payment instead of making it. Not hypothetically, actually run the numbers. Use a conservative 6 to 7% return assumption. See what 6 years of investing that payment would build. If you're genuinely comfortable giving that up for the car, then finance it. But make that decision consciously, not passively. Most people have never done this calculation. They've never seen the side-by-side comparison of pay $629 a month for a car versus invest $629 a month and have $54,000 in 6 years. When you see those numbers directly, the decision becomes much harder to justify. And that's the point. If you can see the trade-off clearly and still choose the car, at least you made an informed decision. Step 4. If you're going to finance, finance smart. Keep the loan under 4 years, ideally 3. The shorter the term, the less interest you pay and the less time you spend underwater on the loan. Put down at least 20%. This immediately gives you equity and reduces the amount you're borrowing. It also signals that you're not stretching beyond your means. Make sure the payment is under 10% of your gross monthly income. If you make $6,000 per month, your car payment should be $600 or less. If it's higher, you can't afford that car. And never, ever roll negative equity from a previous car into a new loan. If you owe more than your current car is worth, you need to pay down that gap before buying something else. Rolling it forward just compounds the problem. If you can't meet those conditions, you're not ready to finance the car. And that's not a failure. That's clarity. Step 5. Consider the alternative path. What if instead of financing a $40,000 car, you bought a $10,000 used car with cash and invested the $629 monthly payment you're not making? After 6 years, you'd still have that $10,000 car, probably worth $6,000 to $7,000, and you'd have $54,000 in investments. That's $60,000 in total value. Compare that to the financed path. You have a 6-year-old car worth $16,000 and zero savings from those payments. You're $44,000 behind. The gap compounds over time. If you repeat this cycle 3 times over 18 years, the difference is over $200,000 in net worth. That's not an exaggeration. That's the math. Once you understand this, the illusion breaks. You're not buying a car. You're buying a payment. And payments have consequences.
Most people have never run these numbers on their own situation. They've made car decisions based on what felt affordable in the moment, not what the long-term cost actually was. And that's not their fault. The system is designed to hide this math. Dealerships don't show you depreciation curves. Lenders don't show you opportunity cost. Nobody puts the 6-year total next to the 6-year investment alternative and asks which one you'd rather have. If you want to see how this applies to your specific situation, I've put together a simple calculator and checklist. It walks through the full cost of a car purchase, including depreciation and opportunity cost, and shows you whether a purchase or financing decision fits within the income-based framework. It's not a sales pitch. It's just a tool to make the math clear before you commit to 6 years of payments. You can find the link in the description. The calculator takes about 5 minutes to complete. You enter the car price, your down payment, the interest rate, and the loan term. It shows you the total amount you'll pay, the expected value of the car when the loan is done, and what you'd have if you invested the payment instead. Then it compares that to the income test. It tells you whether the car fits within the half-year income guideline and whether the payment is under 10% of your monthly gross income. It's not going to tell you what to do, but it will show you the trade-off clearly, and sometimes that's all you need to make a better decision.
The average American will spend over $500,000 on cars in their lifetime. Most of that is financed, most of it loses value, and most of it could have built wealth instead. The system isn't designed to help you see that. It's designed to make the payment feel normal.
It's designed to make the question, "Can I afford the monthly payment?" feel like the responsible question to ask. But the responsible question is different. It's, what am I giving up to make this payment? It's, what will I have in 6 years if I choose differently? Those questions don't have comfortable answers, but they're the ones that matter. Now you know what the payment actually costs, and you know how to evaluate the decision before you sign. That's not deprivation, that's clarity.